Okay, so let's talk about what happened with Nuri Martinez. And there's so much to actually say and write about here. And oh man, maybe I'll actually just spend the weekend like unpacking this situation. I was gonna just highlight more of my favorite models from Fashion Week, but this is way more interesting. So Nuri Martinez, who first we have to start with this. She's born in it looks like the San Fernandino Valley or something. This is in California, but she was born to two immigrants. So her mother was a seamstress, and it looks like her father was like deported. You have to start the conversation with that. And so this woman, Nuri Martinez, identifies as like Latina or Hispanic. People are classifying her as white. I personally would not classify her as white. I mean, look at her last name. It's Martinez. That's like, I think that it becomes very tricky because in the developing world, all across Latin America, these are so Latin America is a part of America, right? But it's not like America proper. It's not North America. So Hispanics, quite generally, are like colonized by white people. Just because they were colonized by white people, that doesn't make them white. I think that is a very important aspect of the Hispanic part of the story that you kind of have to remember. I don't know because there are like obviously like white people who speak Spanish. That's definitely a thing. I'm not taking that away from anyone. That's a real identity, but just looking at this woman, she looks like a Hispanic woman, like phonetically. And in terms of race, it is definitely about how you present. Now, all of her comments were extremely anti-black. Now, on this channel in particular, I've talked about my proximity to whiteness and my proximity to many other cultures. This is included Asian, Latinx or Hispanic, and white anti-blackness. It's like this collective idea that because we are whiter skinned people, we are like there's something about black darker skin that makes people less worthy, more prone to violence, more stupid. Like they're stereotypes, but they're pervasive in other parts of the world. So all across Asia, all across Latin America, you can go look at this right now. They have separated their societies into whiter skinned and darker skinned people, and whiter skinned people have more access to resources, more education, and more money. That is just the way that the societies are set up. There's not really like some rationale to it. That's just the way that it is. It's called like systemic racism and white supremacy. So I really like a quote from an opinion piece that I don't know what his name is, but it talks about how white supremacy, as there's a browning of America, white supremacy plays out amongst non-white people. This is very true amongst Asian groups, white Asian, well, they're not white, but they're like paler skinned Asian groups where but they can like culturally appropriate. They can start to, sing rap songs and wear braids and eat hot chips and all these things, right? But it's like, oh no, but we are white. Like their whole identity comes with being like pale skinned. Like pale skin ghostness is like an identity among itself. And inherently, it simply has to do with being farther and farther away from blackness. Like blackness is seen as like non-desirable. It's seen as just wrong. It's racism. It's racism at its core. And I mean, we have to be clear because it doesn't just go one way. Like, black people have their own form of racism as well. Like, I think to an extent, I'm probably a racist. Like, there are so many things I just kind of despise about the Latinx community. But specifically, I think I want to talk about her politics for a minute because so basically in this meeting with the audio that was recorded, she's talking about how she wants to like will take up spaces in political realms that are occupied by black politicians, and then replace those people with Hispanic politicians so that they can make more space basically for the Hispanic population. This kind of makes sense given that the population of California is so super Hispanic. Like it's just so Hispanic. Like it's like 50% of the state or something is full of Hispanic people. This is not a demographic representative in all of America, but in California for sure it is. But here's what I have to say. Like, there will never come a time where the Hispanic population overpowers or overnumbers the white population. And Hispanic people are not, Latinx people are not considered white. They are their own, like, demographic group. And white supremacy is a thing. I think it's hilarious that Nuri considers herself white. Everyone can identify. I can also identify as a vampire. You know what I mean? Like, we can all have our unique identifiers. Men can identify as women. Everybody can identify in ways that they want to identify. And I think some things are just very interesting because, especially like when you look at places like Mexico or Brazil, most of the people who are living there, like most of the humans who are born and live there and who have never lived anywhere else, are phenotypically black. Like, they're darker skinned, right? And they're poor. And this is by design. And I think it's because instead of actually like exporting any good or participating in free market capitalism as like a human society, or maybe even like a territory, and then trying to make society better for that territory, which is like what's happened in places like Germany, which is what's happened in kind of it's happening in America. I think in America, racism is more important than capitalism. I believe that at heart. There are other people who might argue differently. I don't actually know if it matters just because there's so many wealthy black people in America. And even in terms of like globally, the average black American is just much more wealthy than any other part of the globe. So that's pretty important to like understand. Anyway, okay. So let's just actually read the article just because I know there's some aspects of this I didn't catch. Los Angeles City Councilwoman resigns amid uproar over racist remarks. The former council president, Nori Nunez, faced calls from state leaders and President Biden to leave office after making racist remarks on a recording that emerged on Sunday. This is in Los Angeles. The former president of the Los Angeles City Council resigned from elected office on Wednesday amid national outrage over racist remarks in a leaked recording, hours after the state attorney general announced an investigation into the redistricting policy during which the comments were made. The decision by the former council leader, Nori Nunez, who had risen to one of the most powerful posts in the nation's second largest city, came 3 days after a year-old audio recording surfaced of her disparaging colleagues, constituencies, and even a child of a fellow council member while discussing ways to change political boundaries to benefit Latino representatives. I'm sorry, that's like pathetic. You literally are in a position of power trying to, in one of her other posts, she's like, I'm trying to make space for families, as she like literally makes a racist slur toward a child. Build a wall. All I'm saying, like, her family should have stayed in Mexico, bro. Like, who needs people? This is what I'm saying. The country is being built by people like her. Like, she is the face of America. Like, this is what America is becoming. This is definitely what the Democratic Party is becoming. But in reality, this is what America is becoming. It's like these immigrants from these really shitty places. Like, Latin America is not like a desirable place. Like, all of the economies are pretty much doing awfully. I just watched another documentary about like the Mexican drug lords who are like pumping fentanyl into America. And actually, fentanyl is now killing more black people than it is whites. But all of it, all in all, it's pretty ridiculous, and it's really sad. And I just like she's trying to help families. Like, which families? Like, a lot of the families in America they're not white. So you don't care about those kids? And also, if you're talking about, yes, Los Angeles is considered like, there's a large population of Hispanic people, but even among those Hispanic people, they're not white. They just speak Spanish. They're like brown, they look black. They're like black looking Latinx people. Like, most of the Latinx people are brown. They're not white. There's a small percentage of like white Hispanics, and there will never be a time when America has like a dominance of like Hispanic white people. That might happen in Latin America, which it has happened in the past and will probably continue, which is why their countries continue to be in the shitter, even after having all of the, having all of the infrastructure of the developed world, but all of their economies are lacking because they refuse to use the human capital of black bodies. But that's a conversation about racism that we can keep for another day. Caught on tape with her were two other council members, Gil Cedillo and Kevin De Leon, as well as Ron Herrera, president of the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor. Like, these are people who literally have power. It's just showing you, like, this is how they feel. And it's like, at first they start with like saying shit. Well, they didn't just say things about black people. They said things about Jews. They also said things about a Mexican group or something. Some like indigenous group of Mexicans. So basically they're like a racist group of like white Latinx, I don't even know how to, this is very hard. I don't consider them white. They might consider themselves white. I'll just say they're like a racist group of Latinos who are probably all the children of immigrants and have come here to be a part of racism. And now they're trying to like use politics to like further their racism. Like, this is like on a Margaret Sanger type of level. Like, geez. Yeah, all I'm saying, this is what I'm saying. Like, if you are a black woman, you're not only battling like shitty black men who hate you, actual white people who are white supremacists who hate you, but you're also battling Latinx people who are racist and hate you, men and women alike. And they are literally sitting in political meetings calling you trash. So I'm just saying, if you're a black woman, you should probably really think about, like, the only people who have your back are other black women. And it's not even most black women, because, like, there's a small population of black women in the world who do care about your well-being and are basically just as oppressed as you are. Anyway, politicians all the way up to Biden called for the 3 council members, all Democrats, to resign immediately. I do think that it's pretty important to talk about how this shit is happening in the Democratic Party. There's all type of weird shit happening in the Democratic Party, which is why, like, I haven't been a Democrat for a while. I also don't think the Republican Party is all like good and toasty. Like I said, I'm a moderate, but I feel the immigration issue is the most important issue in this country right now, mostly because we're bringing in people like her. Like, the people are birthing people who are like her. Like, their entire world belief has nothing to do with free market capitalism, research, like engineering, trying to make human life better. It's all about like racial division. And here's the thing, to any person who's like Asian or like Latino and they're like, they want to be racist, I am not against your racism. Like, I'm not promoting integration. I'm not promoting you change your politics in any ways. What I'm saying for you, I want you to win. And how you can win is to go back to Latin America and go back to Asia and compete in terms of free market capitalism. That's how you do it. That's how you win. But you don't go to a place that's based on integration. Like, all the work that has been done in America, like, America will never not be an integrated multiracial place. It will always be that. And there's just so many examples of black wealth that you can't really get past that.